Let's get right into it. We see sugar-free plastered on just about everything these days, right? From our drinks to our snacks. But have you ever stopped to wonder what these artificial sweeteners are really doing inside our bodies? Today, we're cutting through the noise and digging into what the hormone experts, the endocrinologists, have to say about it. For years, the sales pitch has been super simple. They're a free pass. You get all the sweetness, but with none of the calories. It seemed like the perfect, harmless swap to help us watch our weight and dodge the problems that come with real sugar. But, it turns out it might not be that simple. And here is where the story takes a sharp turn. Endocrinologists are now saying, hold on a minute. They're telling us these sweeteners aren't just passing through our bodies unnoticed. Nope. They're biologically active chemicals, and they're interacting with our systems in some really complex ways that we're only just starting to wrap our heads around. So that's the big question we're tackling in this explainer. It's time to look past the marketing and really get into the science of what happens when we taste that sweetness without the sugar. Okay, first up, we've got to talk about this massive gap between what we were all promised about these sweeteners and what the science is now telling us is actually happening long-term. So check this out. For the longest time, sweeteners were pushed as this amazing tool for staying healthy. But then in 2023, the World Health Organization basically flipped the entire script. They looked at all the long-term data and put out an official warning against using them for weight control. They even cited potential links to an increased risk of things like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Wow. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? We thought we were kind of cheating the system, getting that sweet taste for free. But our bodies are way smarter than that. There's always a cost, a metabolic bill, that has to be paid. But it's paid with things like hormonal confusion and disruption. So let's break down how that happens. The first major domino to fall is in the brain. It all comes down to this deep, almost ancient betrayal of the link between what we taste and what our body actually gets. Think about it. For millions of years, our brains have operated on a very simple rule. If it tastes sweet, energy is on the way. This triggers something called the cephalic phase insulin response. Your pancreas gets the signal and releases a little bit of insulin to get your body ready to use that incoming sugar. It's a pretty brilliant system, really. But with artificial sweeteners, this whole beautifully tuned system gets tricked. You taste the sweetness, your pancreas does its job and releases insulin, but then the sugar, the glucose, it never shows up. Your brain's reward centers don't get that same satisfying hit, which can leave you craving other things. And over time, this constant misfire can really mess with how your body manages energy and sugar. Now let's move on to the second major way these sweeteners can cause issues, and this one is absolutely fascinating. It all goes down deep inside your gut, which, it turns out, acts like a second brain and a massive hormonal organ. So your gut is home to trillions of bacteria. That's your microbiome. And this whole ecosystem is so powerful, it basically acts like a virtual organ, pumping out compounds that affect everything from your mood to your metabolism. The problem? Some artificial sweeteners can act like targeted antibiotics, wiping out the good gut bacteria and letting the not-so-good ones take over. Now, if you're looking for the smoking gun, this is it. Scientists did this incredible experiment where they took gut bacteria from people who regularly use artificial sweeteners. Then they transplanted that bacteria into mice that were raised in a sterile bubble with no gut bacteria at all. And the result? The mice started to develop glucose intolerance, which is a major step on the road to diabetes. This proves it's not just a coincidence. The problem is literally transferable through the gut. But here's where it gets really personal. Not everyone's body reacts the same way. The research shows that about a quarter of us are high responders. Our gut microbiomes are just super sensitive to these changes. The other 75% seem to be more resistant. And this really helps explain why your friend might drink diet sodas for years and feel fine, while for you, it could be a completely different story. So far, we've been talking about metabolic mix-ups and confusion, but the newest research is pointing to something even more direct and, frankly, more disturbing: actual damage to our cells and disruption to our hormones, especially during really important stages of development. Okay, this is a big one. Really recent studies found that when your body breaks down sucralose, you probably know it as Splenda, it creates this byproduct called sucralose 6-acetate. And this stuff has been shown to be genotoxic. That's the scientific way of saying it can literally break your DNA strands. And to put that risk into perspective, There are really strict safety limits for chemicals that can damage DNA. The threshold is tiny, just 0.15 micrograms a day. What's scary is that the research suggests that a single drink sweetened with sucralose can produce enough of this DNA-damaging compound to blow right past that safety limit. So this brings us to a really critical term you should know: endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs. These are basically chemicals that can get in and mess with your body's entire hormonal orchestra, causing all sorts of issues, especially during growth and development. And this is where it gets really alarming. Some new research is now starting to classify certain sweeteners as potential EDCs, especially for kids. Why? Because their consumption has been linked with a higher risk of central precocious puberty. That means the hormonal systems that kick off puberty are getting activated way too early. This is a game-changing finding that totally reframes the potential risk for children. Okay, I know that was a lot of pretty heavy science. So the big question is, what on earth do we do with all this information? Let's switch gears and turn all this evidence into a practical, personalized game plan. First things first, let's clear up some confusion. You've probably seen headlines saying sweeteners are totally fine. Well, almost always, those are talking about very short studies, like maybe a few weeks long. The real concern, and what we're talking about today, comes from the long-term studies that follow people for years, and those consistently show that the risks really start to add up over time. It's the chronic, daily habit that seems to be the issue. So based on all this, here's the sort of hierarchy of sweetness to guide your choices. At the very top, the best option is to just retrain your taste buds to enjoy the natural sweetness in whole foods like berries and fruit. If you need a little something extra, small amounts of honey or maple syrup are a decent choice. Then you have things like stevia or monk fruit, which are best used strategically, just once in a while. The goal should be to really minimize the synthetic stuff, like sucralose and aspartame. And the absolute worst category is that high-dose daily habit, like a diet soda every single day. And this is where we bring all this science right back to you. If you're someone who uses artificial sweeteners regularly and you're dealing with stubborn issues like hitting a weight loss wall or bloating or just feeling tired for no reason, it might be worth thinking about whether there's a connection. Since everyone's body is different, the only way to really know how your body handles these sweeteners is to run a little experiment on yourself. The suggestion is pretty simple. Try cutting out all non-nutritive sweeteners completely for about 4 to 6 weeks. See what happens. Pay attention to your energy levels, your digestion, your cravings. You might be really surprised by what your body tells you. And really, this is the final thought to leave you with. We have been trained for so long to just focus on calories. But our bodies are so much more complex than a simple calorie calculator. Sugar-free does not mean biology-free. It just means the consequences are different and a whole lot more complex than we were ever led to believe.